just in case you didn't know, Barcelona have just won another La Liga title. You guys probably already know that. But what you may not know is how exactly they managed to do it. So that's what I'm going to do today, tell you how Barcelona won La Liga. And we're going to do this by separating into three different sections. We're going to talk about structure, we're going to talk about individuals, and then footballing ideas. Of course, the focus is going to be in possession because Barcelona had 68.3% of the ball in La Liga this season and scored 102 goals. Ridiculous. So before we can talk about actual structure, we do need to talk about the starting 11, and for Barcelona it has been quite disrupted this season. They have had several key players who have missed fairly big parts of the season with injury, but I would say generally speaking their best 11 has been something like this. If there are any regular Barcelona watchers out there that want to correct me, please do in the comments down below, but I would say this is roughly the strongest Barcelona 11 from this season. In terms of the structure, the way that they play, we have seen Barcelona starting in a 4-2-3-1, but actually in possession they quickly changed to a back 3. So Koundé on the right side of the fence will play a little bit deeper, and Balde will push further forward, creating almost a 3-2-4-1 shape for Barcelona. Now the idea here is that the base shape, the 3-2 shape, can sort of tick the ball over and keep possession for Barcelona, sort of proven in the fact that 3 of the top 4 passes in La Liga this season have actually come from that Barcelona foundation. Then in front of them we have the box shape, the 4 central midfielders, or the 4 players certainly playing in the centre of the pitch, and they are all given the licence to roam about and move into different positions, something we'll come back to shortly. Of course, we cannot forget the wide zones, Barcelona playing with 1 on the left, 1 on the right, looking to absolutely terrorise fullbacks, and eventually Barcelona end up with 5 on the attacking line to outnumber most opposition defences. So that's sort of the structure behind what Barcelona are doing, but of course we can go into more detail than that. So when talking about the individuals at Barcelona, there are so many different players that you could highlight. For example, Frenkie de Jong has had an amazing season, getting close to rediscovering his best form. I think he's been amazing. Lewandowski has had, again, one of his best goal-scoring seasons of all time. He's been simply amazing. The centre-backs as well have done brilliantly. But for me, one of the players that really stands out is this young man, Pedri, in midfield. And that's just a reminder, he is still young. It now feels like he's been about for a long time. He's played a lot of football matches, but this is still a young man, but maybe one of the most complete midfielders on the planet. He is just an absolute dream to watch, and he has been once again for Barcelona this season. And just look at the numbers here in terms of the stats that he is dominating in La Liga. It's just absolutely absurd. And what he sort of does, Pedri, for this Barcelona side, is he dictates the tempo. We've already said that he is one of these players that sits in the base and sort of keeps the ball ticking over. What I love about Pedri, and I mean I really adore this, is his ability to speed it up, you know, play really quick and move the ball through the lines at great pace. He's amazing with his incisive passing through the lines. But then also his ability to just slow the game down a little bit and go sideways to Frenkie de Jong or backwards to one of the centre-backs. But then next time he gets the ball, he's going to up the tempo again and play in between the lines. I think Pedri, for me, has been one of the players of the season in Europe this season. I think he's been phenomenal. And you could also make the same argument for this young man on the right-hand side. Now, you may have heard of him, Lamine Yamal. He's about 3 years old and maybe the best player on the planet already, particularly when it comes to dribbling. Look at the number of dribbles he has had in La Liga this season compared to the rest of the league. It is just an absolute joke. And the amazing thing about Yamal is he is so good at dribbling that it takes not only 1, but sometimes 2, maybe even 3 defenders. And when we talk about tactics, having 1 player that's going to take up 3 opposition players it's almost like a cheat code in football. Having Yamal is borderline unfair to the rest of the league. He is that good. Now, I don't care about comparisons to Messi. This isn't the next Messi. This is the first Yamal. He is a unique player, but he is absolutely phenomenal. And this season, he's just been great. Now, the other player that I just quickly want to sort of solo out for this is Rafinha, because you've got Pedri, who is sort of the passer for the team. You've got Yamal, who has been the dribbler for the team. You've got Rafinha, who for me is sort of the runner for the team, given a license to attack so many different zones. He starts as a left winger, but you're going to see him popping up in striker situations, in 10 situations, left channel, right channel. He goes everywhere. You can see that in the areas that he has created chances from in La Liga this season, really given the license to play in so many different areas. And of course, these individuals have all played a huge part for Barcelona. But what's even more important than the individuals is those footballing ideas that I mentioned earlier. Now, when you hear me talk about footballing ideas, you might be sitting there rolling your eyes and thinking, okay, it's another one of these, is it? But what I'm talking about with footballing ideas is some of the patterns of play that we see Barcelona, and I would say the regular occurrences that happen in the Barcelona attack. And I'm not just going to talk about boring patterns where certain people move in certain directions. I'm actually more importantly, going to highlight the fluidity of the Barcelona team. The way that they all combine, the synergy between the players is just absolutely fantastic. And the first idea I want to talk about is one from a guy called Callum. Now, he has an account on Twitter. This is where I first saw this. I'm going to leave it linked in the description because his account is amazing. He does great work. But he often talks about floaters and anchors. And the idea with this is the idea that you have certain players that kind of anchor and pin the opposition. So for Barcelona, that will be the back three are sort of the anchor at the back, and then you've got Balde and Yamal who will pin the opposition, and then you've got the roamers, the floaters in the middle of the pitch, which is these guys. Now, for me, for Barcelona, I'm going to change the wording of that slightly. Rather than talking about roamers in the middle of the pitch, I'm going to talk about explorers, because for me, Barcelona are adventurous with the way that they play in the middle. They want to not only find space and create space, but also attack it. Now, the best way to describe this is to show you it, because it may not be a concept that everyone is familiar with, but it looks something like this. So these are our anchors. These are the players that are pinning the opposition, picking up certain areas, and you can see what it's going to do is stretch the opposition. First of all, it is going to stretch the opposition this way. We can see the distance between the deepest defender and the highest defender. So vertically, the opposition are stretched, but also horizontally, the opposition are stretched across the pitch this way as well. So that's what Barcelona are trying to do with the anchoring players. They are trying to stretch the pitch for the opposition. Now, what that does, if you stretch the pitch, it makes room in the middle. And this is where you get your floaters, or in my opinion, your explorers in the middle of the pitch, who are allowed to rotate much more, who are allowed to move into different positions, they're allowed to express themselves, and the fluidity in these positions is just insane. And I think in this case, it's the three at the top here. It's Lewandowski, it's Olmo, and it's Rafinha. You can see the positions that they're starting in. Of course, it helps when you've got a player like Yamal on the right-hand side, who is a wizard, an absolute wizard. But for me, it is those three in the middle and the freedom they are given to explore, to attack, to adventure into these positions in the final third. And you can see they end up with three players in the box. But I think this next example is even better when we're talking about this concept. So again, we've got the anchors, the pinning players. It's Balde on the left-hand side, then it's the two centre-backs, Koundé, and then it would be Yamal on the right-hand side. And what this does is it allows these central players to be explorers, or to be the floaters, players that can take chances on the ball. And I prefer the term explorers again, because Pedri, he explores this space. He is so bold with the way that he plays. He's so adventurous taking on the ball into these positions, probing in these areas. And because you've got five very good footballers close to each other, good football happens, right? Sometimes football is a very simple game. Get good players near each other and good things will happen. It's pretty simple, and Barcelona do it very well. The combination work in these areas is just amazing. And this is what I visualise as proper Barcelona football. The combinations in these areas, youth players, players from the academy combining in these positions and just ruthlessly finishing into the back of the net. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about sort of ties in. You'll see that all of these ideas do tie in, but that is the usage of angled passes and diagonal passes. Now, normally when we talk about diagonal passes, you would expect a big switch, perhaps from a central centre-back or a left centre-back, on a big old switch to the right winger, right? That's what we would normally think about with diagonals. But in the case of Barcelona, it's a little bit different. What they are often doing is turning down the opportunity to play a straight pass, instead waiting to be able to play a slightly angled pass to give their teammate a better chance to take the ball, play on the half turn, and then attack the opposition goal. So you can see it here in the midfield. Rafinha is in this spot here, and realistically, there is a straight pass here that you could play. But what Barcelona wait for is that movement just to one side, so that when Rafinha now receives the ball on the angled pass, as we can see here, it's just a slight angle, but it gives Rafinha more room. Because he's receiving on the angle, it gives him more room to turn, to face the goal. And again, in the case of Barcelona, it does help when you've got some of the very best players on the planet. I have always been a huge fan of Rafinha, and this season he has just been phenomenal. So it certainly helps when you can do something like that. But this is a theme in the way that Barcelona play. Turning down the opportunity to play straight passes. There's an easy ball down the line here, but Yamal doesn't want to play it. And this run actually creates a lot of room. Yamal's eyes are elsewhere. He is looking for his man in the middle because he knows that he has the ability to play, again, the angled pass, the diagonal pass in behind the opposition defence. And again, 9 times out of 10, the finishing has been good. Rafinha actually messed this one up a little bit, but Barcelona eventually got the ball into the back of the net. And then again, another example here. Angled passes, sort of, they're almost like daggers into the heart of the opposition defence, because the way that they come in, they start from typically outside and then in to the opposition structure. And it's very, very painful for opposition defenders, because Barcelona have a finisher like Lewandowski, who is just insane wherever he plays. Now, the last idea I want to talk about is perhaps a bit more of a simple one, and that is the idea of runners runners, runners. Flick makes sure that he's got runners in his team. We're talking about players coming to and players going past. We're talking about near and far, basically, creating room for each other and attacking space. And I think that is essential to the way that Barcelona have played this season. And this is what I'm talking about. One player coming near, drawing the opposition with him, so that you can create the space for the player that is far. It's a simple idea. One player near, one player far, it creates space and you can attack it. And again, Barcelona have amazing players on the ball to play these passes through, and they've scored some brilliant goals playing in this way. We've got another example of this here. Players near, players towards the ball, coming near. You can see it takes the attention of the opposition defenders. These two centre-backs both have a look at the two Barcelona players going near the ball, and that creates room for the player to go far, near and far. That space is now there in behind, and again, the passing range is kind of unfair, and as is the finishing quality. And for me, it's just a combination of all these things that have made Barcelona incredible this season. From the structure initially, the individuals within that structure, and then the ideas with how they play football, the way they move so quickly. They're not worried about possession for the sake of it, despite having so much of the ball. They want to play forward quite quickly. They want to hurt teams, and I would say they've achieved that considering they've scored 102 goals in the league. So fair play to Barcelona. They have been absolutely immense. Slight frailties at the back defensively, perhaps. But to be honest, when you score that many goals, who cares? Not me. I'm not focusing on the defence today because the attack is so much fun to watch. I think Barcelona have been amazing, which is exactly why I wanted to make this video. But in terms of this video, I think it is pretty much finished there. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like, subscribe, and get notifications on as well. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.